Wow, that was really jazzy. I don't know if everybody else got that, but that's an amazing new
I was
intro.
moving and grooving with that
I
one. That
was
was pretty good.
feeling we had a sweet 30-second intro, courtesy of VJ Corvin. We never had this much prep for our town halls before. But wow, that was cool. Welcome. It is August of 2021. This is the Concrete CMS monthly town hall where we get together and talk about what is good and things that could be improved, I suppose, too. We can talk about anything that you want to talk about. So start sticking your questions in the chat, and we will get to them sooner or later. Bunch of news to get through, not too much, bit of news to get through. Big news is version 9 release candidate is out. Share my screen here. I think I've got it up or something. There you go. There you go. 9.0.0.rc1 with this beautiful blog post about massive new features, including boards, containers, multi-sites working, Bootstrap 5, a whole new theming system, just more than we are going to get into. Andy posted all these sweet videos about it. Super cool. And then, as is our MO, mere days later, 9.0.0.rc2 is also now available, fixing some high turnaround issues that were easy to nab. So very exciting to see the energy starting to come there, and 9.0 official being ever closer, looming on the horizon. Anything specific that you want to talk about with 9, Andy?
No, that's covers it. Yeah, there's a lot, much more than we can get into really in a single town hall. But there are a bunch of videos out there that show the kind of the biggest features. You have to kind of navigate even back into last year to kind of get into some of the stuff that we may have been living with for so long that we've forgotten is new in version 9, like updated file manager and boards and things like that. So definitely seek out those new features that we've done videos on over the last year, and those are in version 9 along with a lot more stuff. And yeah, you can expect another release candidate in the coming weeks. I don't think it's quite as highly important as it was last week, just with some of the bugs that were part of the first release candidate. But very exciting stuff, and a few more exciting things to go. But yeah, version 9 is on the horizon, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, me too. You go back and look at these videos, you'll even see Franz with the old Corona hair there, rocking my Kurt Cobain. Yeah,
yeah.
It's been a minute. But yeah, happy to get into specific questions here as we get to the end of this show. Just want to blast through this news so we can get to the Q and the A. One thing that I imagine we might have some Q&As about, but thought I'd throw it out here at the beginning, is multi-site licenses. So after much debate internally and documentation, we all agreed that we just had a really hard time pinning down a specific use case for multi-site. Different folks use it in different ways. And if open source has taught us anything, it is that whatever list we can make, there are going to be a whole bunch of additional things that show up later, where we're brought in to do support or do a review on something. We're like, wow, I had no idea you could build anything like this with our software. So that's great. That makes it pretty hard for us to say, hey, this is what you should charge for a multi-site license. I know internally we've got projects where we would have like maybe 4 sites for a single company that are all similarly branded, less than a dozen or something. And you're like, yeah, multi-site would be a great solution for that. I know we've got other projects where we're running 100 sites in a single install using multi-site. And I'm very confident that, there's some startup hosting kind of vertical group out there that's going to say, this is great. Why don't we run 1,000 sites in a high availability setup out of a single install? I don't know. So the idea that we would just say, look, there's a single site license and the multi-site's just 10 times single site cost or whatever, and try to kind of dictate that to our marketplace vendors seemed a little ludicrous. So what we did to kind of maintain ultimate flexibility and get things moving with a minimum viable product so we can kind of feel out what the market will support is we built multi-site licensing into special offers in the community marketplace. So that means that you cannot install single site licenses into a concrete install that is running multi-site. You have to install the multi-site licenses. And to get those, from your marketplace page, we will eventually have a, hey, if you want a multi-site license, bug me, and that will be a conversation that you as a marketplace developer will have with this slightly more beefy application-y type customer. You can come to some kind of deal on what does multi-site really mean. Is that pay me once you get infinite licenses and infinite support, or some larger limited number of licenses and support for some period of time? I encourage you to all figure that out with the customers who are going to be bringing unique and dynamic needs. The special offers will support you granting that multi-site license to that customer, and version 9 is built to only automatically install licenses of that multi-site type. So that's the decision that we made there. Certainly reserve the right to revise it over time, but that seems to be the smartest way to move forward today. Other news, did some more pushes to the community since we talked last. Mostly fixes to the PRB linter stuff, some bugs in the badges and awards stuff around certification. Picking up lots of stray pages that didn't make it through the migration and either need to be redirected or should exist. I got the archive forums working. Have been tinkering around with discourse settings, getting them to actually fit our unique community and some of our enthusiastic posters. So pretty good activity there in the last month, but mostly in kind of a support capacity. I did want to share a couple of threads from the community that I thought were pretty interesting and deserve everyone to kind of pay attention. The first is this thread of what should be next for Community Store. So Community Store, if you're not familiar, is the kind of the leading way to build an e-commerce site on top of version 7 and above of Concrete CMS. It is linked to off of our main projects underneath, I think, community in the new site. You can pull it out of GitHub. It is a robust system for building an e-commerce store. And so Ryan Masuva is asking, okay, with the version 9 readiness and kind of tweaking some of that user experience, first off, does anybody want to help? And second off, what else? Where else can this go? Like, what else should we do? And so then there is a pretty active thread that I'm scrolling through here around different things it could do or should do, or etc. People contributing ideas and back and forth and on and on and on and on and on. It keeps going. Hey, that's great. I'm sure Ryan could use all of the feedback and help that people want to give. That is a completely free product, and so any love you can spread his way, it's certainly you're building it to sell stuff. So we'd love to see that thing continue to mature. And if you are interested in building e-commerce sites, you should be interested in this thread. Another thread that might be of interest is this one. Hasn't really gotten any posts yet, but Hissy is wondering if, hey, we should be, with the introduction of containers in version 9, should we be looking at some way to package those up in the marketplace, or kind of denote things that have good containers and ones that don't? I think this begs more questions around how can we sort themes, and as we've got version 9 specific themes, how are we going to make all of those features really shine? Because I think containers are pretty well tied to the theme that you're going to be using. So I think this as more of an attribute inside of our theme section as opposed to a standalone idea. But I don't know, maybe I've got that wrong, Andy.
Yeah, with the idea of the Bedrock theme library, the goal was always to be able to do something like what he's suggesting, where that you could, in theory, distribute containers that look nice for themes that were built on Bedrock, even if they were independent of the theme that they were a
Mhm.
part of. However, that being said, like you are right, there, practically speaking, containers are pretty closely tied to the theme. I mean, they can be distributed independently, but they're also shipped with the theme, and that's certainly kind of the place where you're going to get the most value out of them, is really highly designing them as part of the theme and including the CSS to make them look nice, etc. So I think, having some ability to say if a theme has containers present in it, or if a theme, I have a directory of themes that we really give the strong thumbs up to, because they include support for not just the core block type, but also making the calendar look nice, including containers, having treatments for boards and other stuff, like some kind of way to show the things that really take full advantage of all of our features is probably a good thing to investigate.
Yeah, so would welcome some more discussion there. Cool to see people investigating version 9 and some of the
Absolutely.
kind of the new big thinking that's going on in there. And yeah, open to how we can make that make sense to everybody. All right, one request from me before we get into the thank you section. Probably should have done this the other way around, but if you have a moment and you haven't done so recently, I would love some reviews on g2.com. So this is one of the many software comparison sites that we are on, and we get a lot of really good traffic from. These guys are wrapping up their seasonal review of the content management space. I think it's the 2021 one, so it's kind of like, good to get in there now. I don't think it takes very long. The more reviews we can get in before August 16th, the better we will do. I think we're currently like number 13. It'd be so cool to be above 10, right? Like, let's get above that fold. You guys can do it. Doesn't need to be a lot. But if you're sitting there going, yeah, I remember when they asked about reviews before and I never filled it out, this would be a great time to go ahead and do that. It's not very hard. You just click very likely to recommend, and it's awesome. Stuff like that. And then we end up using widgets from these guys on pages on our site as well. So you'll get kind of street cred on our end and my deep and unbridled appreciation. So thanks in advance to anybody who's doing that. You can just go to g2.com. You'll also see there's a post in the forum announcements area, g2.com/products/concrete-cms take_survey. We'll share that URL in various spaces. All right. Forging right ahead, want to do some shout outs and thanks and talk about Karma a little bit. So first thing I want to do is, now that we're using Discourse, like we're bought into their various events, and conversations are getting active, as you've seen, and people are leveling up. So Jess gave us a list of folks who have leveled up to level 2 in the forums, which means that you have, I don't know, done a bunch of stuff. You've been there for visiting at least 15 days, casting at least one like, receiving at least one like, receiving 3 different topics, replying to 3 different topics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to shout out Concrete Owl, Enlil, John the Fish, Cats, M. Enkele, TM Designs, and Vidal Themes. You're all super active, and we appreciate it. Hope that the forums are behaving well for you, and thank you for being present there and asking and answering questions. It means a lot. Andy, cool. Do you have any pull requests you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do. We've gotten a lot of helpful code submissions over the last month, especially as version 9's been getting, closer to release. So I wanted to shout out AYE, Bitterdev, B. Matzner, B. Saladin, CCM and Lil, Deek87, Hayum Bacha, Hishi, HMONE 23, John the Fish, Matt 9MG, Midhood 1993, Emlokati, Remo, and Zanweb. Thank you all so much. And someone not on this list, but also deserves to be shouted out, is Linuxoid, for making a lot of excellent bug reports from the first release candidate. We released it, and then within 15, 20 minutes, under an hour, we were getting bug reports, which, that says something about what you release, but it also says something about the diligence of your community, because they were finding stuff that was easy to spot, but also pretty deep in there, and it all makes the software better. So thank you so much, everybody who submitted pull requests and bug reports for version 9. It is much appreciated, and we are continuing to work on all of the things in there. So thank you so much.
Nice. Yeah, thanks. Very cool. So I am going to introduce this new idea here. I don't know if you're sharing my screen or not there, Corbin. Oh, yes, you are. There it is. The Golden Baton. So this is pretty cool. So we used to have the Karma machine, which would automatically dole out add-on licenses to kind of leaders in 3 different categories. And we killed all that as part of our new community stuff. We're still tracking Karma points, but we did not port the machine over because it was very, very complicated. And a little impersonal feeling, to be completely direct. What we did do instead is we built into the Karma system an additional type of badge, an award that you can get that you can then pass on to somebody else. So much like on Reddit, how I might get I think they call them badges there, that I could give to somebody. This is the same idea. You can get one, you can give one. And this is the first one of those that we're going to do. I imagine there'll be more of them coming around, but this first one seems like an aha moment. We're going to call it the Golden Baton. I'm going to have a better actual badge made beyond this inspiring stock photo, but I need something to talk about this morning. So here you go. We got a Golden Baton. What I want to do is shout out a specific individual from the community and really thank them for just exhibiting our core virtues at Portland Labs. I mean, we're here building a web for the greatest good of everybody. And let's see if this goes to the right screen. Yes, it does. And so that means we have to make choices. And you know, I have found the idea of values to be, I don't know, a little wishy-washy, right? Every company has these values that we're going to over-deliver synergy to our client, and they're never anything that you wouldn't want, but they never really have any cost. And so I think the way that we look at it is thinking less about values and more about virtues. Right? A virtue is something that you're willing to actually pay a price for. Everyone would like to be fast. Everyone would like to, put their client's needs first or whatever. You're not forced to think about, well, hey, that might, you might have to give up time to do that or whatever. So to me, I like talking about virtues and things that you would choose to take a hit in order to support. And these 6 virtues are virtues that we have internally at Portland Labs, and we will do kind of video shout outs for different team members as we see somebody really go out of their way to exhibit one of these. And so I thought extending that experience to the community on top of this new award system that we have would be pretty cool. So today, I want to shout out a particular member, and then they will get the badge, and then next month they can pick somebody new. It's like a pass it along thing. Who do they think that we can pass it along, pay it forward kind of thing? This person exhibits all of these traits. They've been around forever. They are very curious as to how everything works. They're very kind in helping people understand how things work. Nothing if not persistent in terms of putting up with systems that should be very much updated, and we always kind of tomorrow on making them extremely useful. Willing to speak truth to power, quite happily doing so, and that's very well received. And genuinely concerned about everybody being able to get a fair shot at kind of making their presence felt and getting ahead through concrete. Of course, I'm talking about John the Fish. John, we love you very much. You're special. You're an important part of the community, and you've been Golden Batoned. So what that means beyond this special badge that I'm going to put together for you is we're going to send you a swag pack. We're going to give you $250 in credit in the marketplace to spend on whatever add-ons you want, so you don't have to get the same domain mapper from us month after month. You get to pick the next Golden Baton receiver. If you want some help with that, I'm happy to do that. Don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I do think this would be a fun way to kind of share the love around the community. So Congratulations on winning Karma this month.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. Golden Baton. Okay, speaking of John the Fish and all the great things that he does for us, we have a video from Noor and John on things that have been approved as of late through the PRB. Can you cue that up, VJ Corvinite?
This month began slowly in the PRB with new community sites going live and some teething issues. Then submissions picked up, reviewing picked up, and some longer reviews completed, so we actually have a fair bit to show you. First off, in the add-ons we have Find and Replace by JB1. This is $50 in the marketplace. This was actually released earlier this year, and I'm making a point of mentioning it now because of the new community sites going live. There are plenty of sites that may need to change links or text to match the new community sites, which is an ideal use for this add-on. It's almost as if JB1 had a premonition. The add-on does a controlled find and replace directly in the site database, so it can handle block content, attributes, even express data. You can configure or exclude tables and columns to find and replace in. You can review the changes before they're made and reverse if you make a mistake, although as with any bulk database editing tool, it's a good idea to make a backup before using it. Now we have Emotion API. This was developed by Emotion and it interfaces to an Emotion API account. The add-on's free, but there are SMS sending fees with the accounts. With it you have a dashboard page to configure phone numbers for users, then send SMS messages to them. You can send to all users, groups of users, picked individual users, or manually entered numbers. It could also be a good starting point if you have more involved SMS functionality. I was impressed by the quality of code for a first-time developer in the marketplace. Now we have Light Slider by ZaneWeb. I'll show you the demo site for this. It's a free, basic, lightweight slider add-on. You pick images in the file manager, add titles and description, and off it goes. As well as managing the usual slider parameters, a nice touch is the ability to use different thumbnails for each responsive screen break. Now we have Consent Management and Privacy Tool by Brutal NV. This comes in two versions. There's a basic version which is free, it was released towards the end of last year, then $40 for the pro version released this month. The reviewers here were ZaneWeb and Enlil. Both add-ons use the Claro JavaScript cookie consent manager, where cookies can be managed in bulk or fine granularity, and it gives a nice styled cookie consent dialog. In the free add-on you have to build the configuration for this yourself. In the pro add-on there's a dashboard page to configure. For a simple yes or no of all cookies, the free add-on is easier to use. If you need more granular control across multiple cookie consents, it's worth taking time to understand the pro version. Now we have Blob Storage and CDN for Azure by Affixia. This is $75 in the marketplace. This is a file manager storage adapter that connects your site's file manager to keep files in the Azure cloud storage. You need an Azure account obviously to use this. Then files can be served from the Azure CDN, so your site can be relieved of any overhead of actually serving the files. Finally, I'm going to show you a theme. We didn't have any themes this month, so we're going to go back for a few months again. Fiddler theme was developed by Data South, a regular theme developer, and it's $45 in the marketplace. The interesting point here is that the main navigation is a side menu rather than a top menu, though this switches to the usual drop down and collapses on a mobile view. And it also comes with a cookie consent widget built in. So that's it from me. Over to Noor.
Thank you, John. So let's start with one of John's own packages, Omni Gallery. this gallery really deserves its name. Every possibility to build a gallery has been included in this package. You grab your gallery content from image sets or individual images, from page lists, attributes, users. You can paginate it, lazy load it, select from several gallery scripts. You can even adapt existing blocks like the core slider block, for instance. And then you can expand it with your own selectors, display widgets, meaning you have really full control over where the data comes from, how it is filtered, how it is displayed. And extra plugins exist for community store and other implementation, and you can build your own implementation if you want. This package costs $50. Let's now go to a product catalog listing by a user Linuxoid. So this is an interesting package that lets you set up a catalog for any kind of product. It doesn't have any selling possibility, so it's not a store, it's a catalog. So it could be useful for things like cars or real estate, for instance. It includes enough options to make it versatile and still very quick to set up. And you can also import and export your catalog using a CSV file, so it's pretty handy. And it costs $49. A third package is a simple YouTube list by developer Fabian Bitter. This one was approved a little while back, actually. It's pretty simple. You display any YouTube playlist on your website with optional pagination, one block, one YouTube playlist on any page. The block automatically sets up responsive thumbnails using the picture element, so it works very well on any device. And it links to each individual video so you can watch it directly on YouTube. And if you wanted to watch the videos in an open overlay, for instance, it would be really trivial to add a tiny script and do that with a template. Review was done alongside John DeFish, and this package costs $35. And then our last package is a Pages Carousel by developer ZenWeb. This package is basically a page list block with display in mind. So you get pretty much the same options you get in the core page list block with the extra options to display your page list in a carousel. So it makes attracting attention to latest articles or news easier by really making them pop. And it is fully responsive, so with control over display at different breakpoints, and you can play with them and make it really work on any device. This package cost $15. It was reviewed by Enlin and approved by John DeFish. And that's it for today. Thank you.
What? What? Sorry about that, everybody. Well, feel like we had a gain issue there. We could have maybe dialed that in. So giving you a chance to kind of get your speaker back before full Franz and Andy mode. But yeah, I could hear much of that, and it looks super cool. Like, boy, that's search and replace. Probably could use that. Make life a lot easier. So yeah, thank you, John and Nord, everybody in the PRB, approving stuff. That is super cool. Okie dokie. Let's do a quick showcase here, and then we'll get into the Q and the A. So if I am sharing my screen, here you go. The Hartford Foundation. This is the largest nonprofit in Connecticut, a state known for having fairly deep pockets. They do public giving, and this is pretty website about all the stuff that they do. It's got what you would expect, some strongly typed content, fairly large tree, and et cetera, et cetera. It looks good, nice, consistent design. Got a bunch of people who are editing the thing, so having a system that is easy for anybody to understand so they can get in there and post things quickly is pretty important. Hartford, Connecticut, that's where our insurance is based. One thing that's pretty cool about this, it was built by this agency, Go Agency, that has a cat, apparently, because agencies have cats. There they are, having fun. Go big results. but I got a little bit of a tour of kind of some of the cooler stuff just beyond, hey, it's content and we're managing it. One of the things that they have to do is they have to make announcements when grant opportunities are listed, right? So these guys are like, they accept donations. They also, help offer grants and that kind of thing. And so, by law, they have to go through, here you go, all sorts of kind of compliance bells and whistles when you're doing the grant stuff to make sure everybody knows about it. So I got these cool screenshots. On the back end, there's actually a system where you can set up automated notifications around grant publishing. So you can choose, when to display the grant, when to hide it. Like, do we send an automated email out for this one or not? Because there's some exceptions. And when do you want that to go out? You can then write a bunch of stuff, and it actually will format a fancy HTML email for you.
Wow.
Make sure that all happens at once, right? So really taking the workflow that a busy organization like the Hartford Foundation has and cooking it into the content management system so they are positioned in a way where it's just like, hey, I can just use this as a word processor, write up the grant, get it approved. Again, there's workflow built into Concrete. And then once it's approved, all the tools are right there. So the additional compliance steps that are required from a business perspective just happen, which I think is super cool. So thank you for the folks at Go Agency for sharing that story with us, and I'm going to learn to speak today. If you all are working on projects that have cool workflow functionality like that, we love showing off sites that are just thinking around the processes around content management and the systems that go into that. So thanks. Okay, I believe we have made it to the Q&A. Corvin, how do you want to do this? I know you like to put the questions up in the little thing. Are you prepared for that? Should we?
Well, so the way we do that, if we get any kind of questions through the YouTube chat, we can show those, and then we actually get a lot of good mornings. It's kind of cool to see these. We get a lot of hellos from everybody, saying hi and watching the show. So, but we don't have any questions in there. So if anybody has a question that they want to ask, feel free to post it in there. At this point, we do have a bunch of questions, just none that I could pop up.
All right. Well, I see some questions in this note stock that we're all sharing. So here's one from Masuva, Andy. I think it's mostly going to be you today, sir. Is there a requirement to add Bootstrap 5 classes to interface code, or whether there's some sort of capability built in that handles legacy Bootstrap classes? I've been upgrading my add-ons and community store that have both Bootstrap 3 and Bootstrap 5 classes, but I've just not read anything so far about what's actually required.
Excellent question. In the past, it's kind of been dependent on on how Bootstrap looks if its classes are not applied. So I remember the transition from, I think, Bootstrap 1 to Bootstrap 2. All of the form fields that had Bootstrap 1 classes, if you didn't apply the Bootstrap 2 classes explicitly, they looked terrible. Like they were overlapping each other. They were doing crazy stuff. So in that regard, we had this uncomfortable time of going through and really making sure that each and every form element had the right class attached to it. And I think from 2 to 3 was a slightly less onerous process, but kind of similar. I think in general, we're not going to disallow add-ons if they have Bootstrap 3 or 4 classes on them. Probably Bootstrap 3 classes, I guess, because 4 we never released. If they have Bootstrap 3 classes on them and the add-ons look decent, they look acceptable, like we're not going to get in the way, making sure that the padding on the checkbox, the fact that the checkbox is 2 pixels off because it doesn't have the checkbox label class around it. Like, I don't think we're going to concern ourselves too much with that. In terms of making sure your add-on looks nice, I think you can definitely explore sort of commingling those classes, like you said, because I think that makes a lot of sense. The core itself will automatically swap out the classes. So if you're using core form classes, core form PHP classes, like in methods within them, like the checkbox method and the label method, if you upgrade from 8 to 9, all those those methods will output the new Bootstrap 5 classes without you having to do them. But in terms of any additional layer to perhaps any compatibility CSS that might add in support for Bootstrap 3 classes that have been dropped in Bootstrap, but we might add them back. I think that's pretty unlikely. We did have to do something like that in the past with Bootstrap, like I said, with some of the earlier versions. If you didn't have the new classes applied, everything just looked like a total mess. And I think for that stuff, we did actually add in some kind of basic compatibility layer so that it didn't look horrendous. As we deal more with actually taking add-ons built for an older version of Concrete and themes built for an older version of Concrete and taking those for a spin in the new release candidate, we may add in some basic compatibility layer for the most egregious cases. But I think your best option is either commingling those classes like you're saying, just ignoring them if it looks acceptable, or you could always build a new version of Community Store or any other add-ons. This is an excellent time to also embrace version 9 specific features and build a new version of your software for version 9 while continuing to sell the old copy of the version for 8.5 and below, because we also support that. So those are kind of the options that I see.
There you go. Okay, forging right ahead, the Northman asks, it looks like the /concrete/JS folder has been cleaning up for a lot of utility scripts in 9RC2 that we used to have access to. Is this something that will be added again in later, or is that gone for good? If it isn't added again, would it be a good idea to put that in the Get Your Add-ons Ready for version 9 page?
Well, in general, you are right. We are definitely cleaning up a lot of the things in there. So in the past, in version 8 and earlier, the way that we handle a lot of CSS and JavaScript is we kind of had this asset system, and you had to tell Concrete when you were using certain types of features. So a good example of this is Drop Zone is a third-party piece of JavaScript that allows you to drop an image onto a div in your page and upload it somewhere. And we use that in the file manager to enable dragging and dropping an image into the file manager. So in the past, you used to have to call this little piece of code that said, hey, this dashboard page uses Drop Zone, so I'm going to make sure that it gets loaded. And you're right, that is no longer found within the JavaScript folder. This might be a bad example because I can't remember. We might actually still have this one, but it still stands for other similar libraries. But the actual details of this are a little bit murkier because it's not really gone. It's just bundled into a different JavaScript file. So in an effort to kind of clean things up and make it so developers don't have to concern themselves with all the micromanagement of these assets, we actually have we don't have any fewer JavaScript and CSS assets. We probably have more. We just are bundling them together into fewer files. So we have one CMS style sheet and one CMS JavaScript library, and that's loaded anytime in the front end when you have the toolbar present. So when you're logged in and you can see the toolbar, you get this sort of unified JavaScript and CSS view for that. Anytime you're in the dashboard, you're getting the dashboard theme, which has, a single JavaScript file and a single CSS file, but those files comprise all the same assets that we always used to have. So I would actually be kind of surprised if your add-ons didn't continue to work unless there are some of the few add-ons where we really have removed JavaScript and CSS and haven't given a replacement. And there aren't many of those, and I don't think I can list any off the top of my head. So, for example, jQuery UI, we don't really have jQuery UI as its own standalone asset anymore. So it may not show up in that library, those JS and CSS folders, but it's bundled into cms.js, cms.css, and the dashboard CSS and JS. So definitely give it a second look. We haven't tried to break anything intentionally there. We're just kind of consolidating stuff so that you don't have to do quite as much micromanagement, and the different sort of domains of Concrete, the front end, the back end, and the sort of unified CMS layer just make more sense. So give that a look again. And if you really do see things that we missed, definitely open an issue in GitHub, because this might be a documentation challenge or just an educational opportunity for us, and it might be something we missed as well. So give it a second look.
And feel free to post the forums on that one too. If you're having a hard time wrapping your mind around it, I bet you there are other add-on developers that are struggling as well. So a forum thread there of, hey, I'm upgrading my add-ons to version 9. Here's some of the things I'm running into. That would probably be helpful, and we will absolutely pay attention to that thread there too. Andy, I see that you're ramping up for this next question. John the Fish is wondering, when will version 8.5.6 with the improved marketplace upgrade integration fixes be scheduled for release? I know what he's talking about. There's some end site builders that are blithely wanting Concrete to behave as a site builder, and are struggling with the current interim solutions for connecting to the community, to put it mildly.
They don't want to fire up their MySQL clients.
Not so much.
Get busy with the queries.
Yeah, a little bit of a gap there in our delivery. So I believe 8.5.6 improves that.
Yes, it brings it in line with version 9. It lets you actually, it makes that process a lot better, even going forward.
Yeah.
And it has
security stuff too.
Security issues, some bug fixes. That's on our radar. We need to schedule that. Actually, we need to internally. But I think we're looking out. We're looking probably within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
pretty soon.
Last I heard, it was just between you and Lisa making sure that CVE folks get the time.
Yes, we definitely don't want to do another release. I'm happy to report that it seems like the new marketplace with multi-site licenses isn't going to require any additional tweaking to what we've done for 8.5.6, and also the upgrade to version 9. For such a big release, usually sometimes we have to do a release prior just to get the database in a state that can be it can accept it. We definitely are highly recommending people to upgrade to version 8.5.5 before they do an upgrade to version 9, but 8.5.6 is kind of similar. We'll definitely recommend people upgrade to that before they go to version 9, but there doesn't appear to be any major things we have to do in order to make that transition work. So we're not really being held up on 8.5.6 other than just a couple security issues that we're making sure get rectified. Next 2 weeks.
Mike is asking, is 8.5.6 still called Concrete 5, or is it called Concrete CMS? This should make sense. Version 9 is Concrete
hardest
CMS.
Questions.
I'm not. It is Concrete CMS.
We're definitely not doing a search and replace in the 8.5.6, but
we are calling it Concrete CMS. The logo is just a hand, and we're not changing anything more than we have to in a point release for 8.5. So hopefully that answers that. This next one I think I can actually answer. So a bunch of people went there. This is from Masuva. A bunch of people went through level 1 certification on the new community stack. We launched that, but there was a bug. Didn't quite have it properly configured. So passed, but you didn't get your badge. So that's kind of a downer. Do you have to do it again? No, you have to do it again. That would be ridiculous. You guys do a lot for us. We're not going to make you needlessly jump through the same hoops ad nauseum a couple of times. That just makes you fit, but forever? That's just not fair. We will dig up who went through there and didn't get the badge, and we can manually apply that. So something to add to Evan's team's list there. Make sure that stuff is behaving, and make sure to catch everybody who passed and grant them the badges that they have earned. I do think you got a couple over here in the Google chat, or whatever we're doing, YouTube chat.
We sure do. We got one from Calspan. He says, how dramatically will the developer documentation need to be updated for version 9? And when do you think the documentation will be updated?
I don't think dramatically. I think there's a fair amount of, there are new features, and so there will need to be added some new sections. I said that like like Yoda would have said that. We will need to add some new sections to support those new features. Things like boards and the building for boards and summary templates and containers and the new task system. But in the past, what we've done is we've added these new sections in the developer documentation with a note at the top that says they require a particular version, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. All the sort of existing stuff that we have, nothing about the existing documentation is necessarily sort of supplanted or changed tremendously with version 9. It's mostly just new stuff. The possible exception to that is the theme documentation. I mean, nothing about the theme building process is out of date or just straight up wrong, but there are new features and new ways of approaching problems, which they probably require their own real dedicated focus. I'm thinking of the first half of the building websites with concrete book that we have. It's not wrong, and it's still just as valuable today as it was yesterday, but there's a lot of ways that it could be made even easier by version 9 improvements. So I'm thinking as we roll out version 9, we'll create some time to add documentation for the new features. It's not going to be an overhaul of the whole system like we've done sometimes in the past, just some new sections, and then we're going to, when time allows, really take a second pass at that book, finishing it as well as kind of bringing it up to date for version 9.
That makes sense to me. I know we've talked about adding like a version attribute to documentation in the past, but hey, this page applies to 7, 8, and 9, or just 8, or that kind of thing. So we might look at that. I do think a lot of the stuff that we've added is pretty encapsulated, right? So like you're saying, here's a whole new section on boards that didn't exist before.
Yeah, more containers or whatever.
Containers, all that kind of stuff. So I think that, no need for a completely new system. And I know on the back of our radar is how do we deal with internationalization in the documentation as well. I know Katz wants to translate it to Japanese, and we're working with some folks in German and now French. And if you speak another language and you would like to help as a regional partner, we'd like to hear from you as well. There is a partners page you can get to from the footer of our site. And we are trying to kind of fold more of that stuff into what we're doing at concretecms.org. As opposed to letting them all be separate sites that are kind of Wild Westy. So we need to do a little bit of work on the tools to make sure that stuff is behaving in version 9, but I think that would be where I'd like to see. I don't want to make a whole documentation tree for each version unless we really have something completely different like we did with kind of legacy concrete. Because now, like, there's just too many forks to deal with in terms of translating stuff. What else?
Okay.
What else we got?
This next one is a little specific. I think I have a good answer for it. This is from Perkier Erickson. He says, I'm able to export database with my PHP MyAdmin, but it displays an error when he exports too much data. This is something that's would be great to post to our forums. We have some people in there who know, database exports up and down. And, this kind of question is very specific to your environment. I would say that it's probably some kind of memory limit issue, but it's hard to know without really looking at it or asking some more questions. So I would post that to the forum, and I bet you'll get a great answer on it.
I have an answer too.
Yes.
I bet you it's the same one that Andy's thinking of. Have you checked out the console tool that we built recently for concrete?
Console, yeah, concrete console.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We have built a tool recently that works through the CLI interface of your web server. So you'd need to be able to access the CLI. But what it does is it dumps the site and takes your MySQL database, your files, your uploaded files, some of the packages that you have, any kind of it keeps the core just in case you've made some customizations, which you definitely shouldn't. So yeah, that.
Oh, we lost them. It's cool though. Yeah, it's an import-export for your concrete site, so it can be portable. Oh my God, we're losing Andy too.
Oh no, really?
Oh, you're back. I just got a throbber on you. It's like, what is happening? Oh, Corbin's back. Whew.
How could we lose me? I'm the host.
I had to step away.
Right. So we have a couple good ones. So there's another one from Stewart Design Agency. Not another one, but the first one from Stewart Design Agency. He asked, what's the status of the new cloud hosting environment? And will there be a pre-release demo of the environment?
Yes. Status is it's really cool. I have a bunch of trials that I'm playing with right now, and we've got some interns who are beating up those trials with some projects. We're moving some of our own clients in there and making it super happy. If you would like, if you've got a project that you think fits, if you go to the hosting page on our site, you will see 3 plans there, and in the middle, we are talking very much about this cloud stack. For anybody else that's watching, there's really 3 ways that we kind of think about hosting sites that run Concrete. On kind of the easiest end or fastest to get going is your traditional budget web host. Hey, I'm going to install this thing on a cPanel or Plesk setup. In terms of upgrading, I'm just going to use the Insight upgrade tools that, as long as you're not customizing things too much, should work just fine. Backups are just whatever my hosting provider offers. You can make this work on just about any web host. So, we've got a link to A2. They do a great job with Concrete. You're going to spend somewhere between $5 and $50 a month, depending on kind of how much flair you really need. On the other end of the spectrum, it shouldn't be a shocker to anybody to remember that we do managed hosting for larger organizations, including Fortune 500 companies in the U.S. Army. So if you've got if you are a organization that's like, boy, we have some complicated needs. We're using this to build an application. We've got developers and compliance and performance and all these concerns. Or if you're an agency that has closed a big project and you're like, look, I like to build and design this stuff, but I would like somebody else to get a phone call at 3 a.m. if it's going down. I want to make sure it's super secure. And how do we do it the kind of the beefiest way? Well, we've got managed plans on the other end of the spectrum. And what Stuart's asking for is, hey, can the web development community, the leaders watching this video by and large, can you get access to the same tools that we use to manage those code deploys? And so that's what we've been building in this cloud hosting platform. So it kind of splits the difference between those 2 approaches. It is built on top of Kubernetes. It uses Git as a source of truth for your code, and it automates the deployment from Git to instances, so you can have a testing site, you can have the live site, and you can roll things back, and you get fancy tools. Working cool. Would expect to be able to get you into a trial in weeks, and would love to have you fill out that form. So I have a nice long list of folks that are eager to get one. Good question. Thanks for the softball.
Nice. One more from Calspan. He asks, will we be releasing a... Oh, that's an interesting glitch. Let's try that again. There we go. Will we be releasing a best practices for creating a theme video anytime soon? Specifically, how would you recommend using Bedrock?
Oh, what a fun question. Yeah, it seems like with every sort of major revolutionary change to Concrete, we do a building a Concrete theme screencast. I can still remember the first one that we did for open source that I think was using a Halloween theme.
Oh yeah,
many years ago. Yeah, we should definitely do that. It's not on the radar specifically at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did that. We are currently involved in building a Concrete theme for version 9, so we should definitely look into releasing a screencast for that, or at least for some portion of that process. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a new theme to replace Elemental. That kind of features all the sexy stuff in version 9. I can't say that right. All the amazing functionality in version 9. And so we should take some time to kind of document not only how it's built, but I think another thing that we're starting to really lean into is kind of what are all of the pieces that you should be thinking of if you're trying to make a truly exhaustive theme. Right, kind of thinking about it from an elements up and an atomic design element up. Like, hey, does the document library look good? A lot of folks are building intranets with Concrete, so let's make sure that you don't just make a marketing page, but you actually skin all the blocks that people might be able to use. So yeah, we will take some time to share that. And then Corvin, do you want to share my screen? Because I see this other follow-up question. And I think this is a page that people should know about. So if you go to Concrete CMS and you go to extensions, of course you can shop add-ons and themes in our marketplace. You can also go to related projects. And related projects shows you stuff that is really interesting, but not in the marketplace as kind of an automated download that someone can just install on their site. And that could be for any number of different reasons. So Brand Central is a full-on digital asset management system built on top of Concrete. It's not going to install in a friendly way on top of an existing install. But if you set up a Concrete site using Brand Central, you get all of the lovely tools of a CMS with all of the kind of searchable asset and thumbnailing and love of a digital asset management system. So that's cool. Similarly, like Community Store is a big beast, and you know, no one wants to provide free support on a free add-on, so you're welcome to go download it for free. But if you want to get help, you're gonna have to find somebody to help. Just a couple of our enterprise extensions in here, and right here in the middle is what the question was. Console. It's a command line utility for backup, restore, and moving Concrete CMS sites, and you can go grab it off of GitHub.
Nice. I didn't know about that page.
Related projects. There you go. It's in the main dropdown.
All right, we have one more question, and this one is a softball. If that last one was a softball, this one's a real softball. Oops, that's not the one. This is the one. Why is Concrete so awesome?
I don't know, Tim. Why are you so awesome? Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Awesome. It is awesome because of you and everybody else who is here asking easy questions, but hard ones too. So, you know, things like, are you going to document any of your new ideas? Those are good questions to hear. And we appreciate your help in getting it all done. So on that note, I'm gonna thank everybody. And yeah, we're just about wrapped up on time. We'll be back early September, hopefully with a whole bunch of more new news and some more new questions to talk about version 9 getting past release candidates. Going once, going twice. Anybody else? All right. Well,
sweet. All right. Well, thanks everybody. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.